So we might have just gotten a extremely huge update to how dodge does work, and with this it changes how you could think about certain dodge units. Now I want to say this does not affect certain dodge characters, but it affects a lot of dodge characters that we ended up thinking were a lot worse, and some of them are very relevant to the game's landscape even right now. So what this video is going to be about is going to be explaining the actual quote-unquote change, or the actual reality of how the dodge mechanic really works for those certain characters, and we're going to explain how they affect those characters as well. So again, hopping right into it, we do have Tag ZZ right here, and what happened is this person right here, Iradulu, I said that's so weird, Iradulu, essentially they did post this, and their friend also did post it here. Turn 1 transform Hoodagarn dodging all the attacks after 3 dodges. And the idea behind this is that dodge, we used to think in the past, right? I was Proton explained. Proton believe that there are separate chances since they're calculated in different steps, and they're also different efficacies. And essentially how that works is, let's say multiplicative buffs, I believe, are in different quote-unquote efficacies and different steps of the calculation in terms of Dokkan math, and that's how we get attack stats, that's how we get defense stats. Multiplicative buffs are separate and multiplied against each other essentially. So what we thought is, since certain dodges would not be start of turn, like high chance to dodge, but instead 6% chance to dodge with each attack performed, 7% chance to dodge every time you dodge an attack, right? Those would be separate essentially, since that's during the attacking phase, and since they're different, they were different efficacies, we assumed that, for example, Hoodagarn, right? Hoodagarn has incremental dodge that could stack up to 30%, and Yamcha's could theoretically stack up to 100%, right? Based on the wording here, right, that Proton is giving us. And that, essentially, like with Hoodagarn, his 30% chance to dodge that he builds up when he's transformed, we assumed that was separate. And it always seemed a little weird to a lot of us, because it's almost like the devs think that they're additive. But no one actually really ever tried to test it, because it's like, well, there's the information we do have, and it lines up with how the rest of the game works for the most part. The only thing that didn't really work this way was damage reduction. That was still additive, even in different phases. But someone actually did end up doing some of this testing here, right? We see Yamcha. What they did is they gave Yamcha 50% chance to dodge on super instead of the 10%, and then Yamcha ended up dodging all the attacks. You see right here, some of these attacks he was receiving, some of them he wasn't dodging. Then after this, Yamcha did the super attack. He started to dodge every single attack, because theoretically at that point he would have 100% chance to dodge, even though it is more of a thing that we thought that would be two separate 50% chances to dodge based on how his passive, we assumed, was worded. And then Proton did bring up maybe the credibility for an ideal card would be trying TEQ UI Goku after a second turn. And I believe this was posted right here. Okay, it's additive. It's possible that you tweet about it, and then you even mentioned me. I think you responded to me in another tweet, because for a long time, me, Truth, and a lot of people had thought that chances were separate because they're in separate phases. But we can see right here, UI Goku started dodging these attacks right here. He got hit by this first attack right there, which we did see. Then he dodged one, dodged the second attack, dodged the third attack, and then from here he said essentially just dodge every single attack, because UI Goku is one of these characters that build up dodge with every evasion he does, and that's essentially how these mechanics seem to be working now. This is really funny, by the way, just like all these attacks, like this is 19th anniversary like Dokkan battle. It looks so funny to me, but it has to be like this extreme testing in order for us to really get a good look at it. Here's another example with Hoodagarn, which is another character where, eventually he's going to keep dodging, and then, Hoodagarn, we do know the turn after he gets guaranteed dodge as well, but he does build up to now, it seems like, guaranteed dodge after doing all these dodges within the same turn, which is, this is the most popular tweet that got exploded here, and that is how that works. So dodge that we thought was separate in the separate phases now end up being within the same phase, which is again really big for a lot of characters. Now, I don't think this necessarily changes too much of how we feel about some characters that are like, oh, they're already the best characters in the game, right? But it means that we could make better plays in the game, because we know certain characters, could even now get guaranteed dodge in certain scenarios. And that may be what allow us to feel more comfortable. A character that we thought had 70% plus 20% chance dodge now actually has 90% chance dodge. And that matters quite a bit, I would say. And whilst I don't think things change like, well, I think it is pretty drastic, but in terms of the current characters we have and like a tier list, maybe they move like 1 or 2 spaces up, but what makes a good character still like applies for the most part. Anyways, so again, let's take a look here. Hirudegarn is one of the examples that we brought up here. So we know that Hirudegarn has a great chance of evading enemies' attack, including super attack, and then right here he gets 10% chance of evading enemies' attack, including super attack, within the same turn with each attack he would evade. Now, again, after he gets 3 dodges, he would have a 30% chance. In the past, we thought that this would be separate because, again, this great chance would be start of turn, and then this 10% is with each attack evaded. Just like how you would get multiplicative attack if it was, like, say, I don't know, 100% attack start of turn, then 100% attack when dodging. That would be multiplicative in separate phases, right? But these add together. So, like, let's say, in the past, we thought if you got 5 dodges, it would just be a separate 5% dodge chance, and then your first 70%. Now it's just, you dodge 3 times, and you get 100% chance to dodge within that same turn. And, we do know that after evading 3 attacks, you also get guaranteed dodge the next turn. So essentially, when you dodge 3 times, Hirudegarn has guaranteed dodge for the rest of that turn and for next turn, which is really important, right? Because certain situations, maybe, you'll be afraid to run Hirudegarn because of the inconsistency. But now Hirudegarn, and how we would actually use him, not that, like, his performance, because it always apparently worked this way, so like the performance that he has will still kind of be the same, but it's more of a thing of maybe we could, we better understand these characters, which will better help us make, again, the best plays, like I'm saying. But yeah, I think that's really, really cool for Hirudegarn. I think, Hirudegarn having this little extra, like, knowledge to him is great. Next here we have AGL UI Goku, another example that was brought up in the videos there, but we do know, again, AGL UI Goku has a 77% chance to dodge enemy attacks, including super attacks. Then we know he gets a 7% chance to dodge within the same turn for every attack evaded. In the past, this was kind of irrelevant, right? Because it's like he already has a 77% chance to dodge. If he dodges like 5 times, you could build up to like a separate 35% chance, which would matter if the first dodge does miss. But a 30% chance to dodge is not something that you can necessarily like be like, oh, I'm going to rely on that. But now, the thing about UI Goku is, okay, so let's say he gets 1 dodge, then he's now at 84% chance to dodge. Let's say he gets another dodge, it becomes, I think that's a 91% chance to dodge. A 3rd dodge would give him a 98% chance. Then after that, he's guaranteed dodging. So he just needs to do 3 dodges for a 98% chance to dodge. And then after that dodge, he would do guaranteed, right? So again, that's also really good to know, and could really affect how you would, rank UI Goku, or maybe you may feel more comfortable using him in slot 1 in certain situations, right? Especially after he loses the guaranteed dodge here. So this does make this guy a bit better, I would say, because of the fact that, well, now we know he guaranteed dodges, and before, like, we did not know that. Even though, again, he's quote-unquote the same, it's still, like, in our minds, he's better in terms of, like, how the community thinks of this guy, right? Which is cool, right? I definitely like that quite a bit. Next, we have TEQ UI Goku, and I want to keep this guy up for this guy because I want to explain something real quick, but we do know TEQ UI Goku does build up to a 77% chance to dodge here, but that is, again, like the other dodges when he dodges, right? How to explain it? Or no, with each attack he performs, which would, again, be a situation where he, I'm trying to think of the wording. This would be, again, another situation where it is quote-unquote in a separate phase multiplicative. So he did get this extra 20% chance to dodge if you're under 50% HP. before that used to be just 77% and a separate 20%, but now we know it's additive, even though this is within the attacking phase and this is start of turn. So he actually does get a 97% chance to dodge after the guaranteed dodge turn if you fall under 50% HP right at the start of turn. So that is also really, really nice. And one extra thing here, again, we know this guy gives 10% dodge to all allies. That means that this UI Goku would start off at an 87% chance to dodge, but this is different. So essentially he only needs to do, I think it's yeah, he only needs to do 2 dodges to get guaranteed dodge when you have this ability up, which again also directly buffs this guy because of the change, and it just makes him a lot better of a character, right? When you have that extra 10% chance to dodge to all allies up, it's useful, it's useful. So yeah, this guy definitely becomes, I think it's situational that he becomes better, but you know, when you're under 50% HP or less, I mean, you still have a 3% chance to get screwed over, but it's a lot better than having, you know, like 77 into 20%, right? So that's the thing there. Next, we have physical hits. Now, this is a new free-to-play unit that just came out to the JP version, and I don't know what it's going to be in global. Same with the UI Goku. But the thing about this guy is he has a high chance to dodge. Then he gets 16% chance to dodge when keys 12. Then he gets 6% chance to dodge with each super attack performed within the same turn. He did have an additional with the 66% chance to be super with the Rainbow Key Sphere. So the thing about this hit is back then we would have thought, oh, high chance, 50%, then a separate 16, and then, I don't know, let's say if you got a triple super attack, that would be 18% chance. So what would the math be for that? That'd be 36% chance. So that would be 50, and then a separate 36% chance to dodge if you got the 3 super attacks. But now it's a situation where, okay, well, he's going to have a high chance to dodge. Then after he actually supers when keys 12, essentially, or I'm not sure if this would activate when he counters. It might activate when he counters, but regardless, when key is registered as 12 key, then he would then get a 66% chance to dodge. Then it can go to 72% chance. Then it can go to 78% chance. Then it can go over to an 84% chance to dodge, right? Which is pretty high chance to dodge for a free-to-play character, man. And it's important for this guy because he counters with every single dodge he does. Again, chance of evading enemy's attack. No, right here. I read this wrong thing. Counters with tremendous power upon evading an attack, right? So like, you can give this guy like a crit build. Maybe you want to even this could influence your hidden potential system, because maybe, oh, now I want to give this guy extra additional instead of dodge the hidden potential, because getting the extra attack will give me just a 6% chance to dodge that's added on top of that, right? So yeah, that's very helpful here for this physical free-to-play hit, who's already in our minds was good, but now like we know he's even better than what we thought he was. So it's great. Dyspo, another character I think that has really gotten a good adjustment here, right? If you take a look, Dyspo gets 11% chance to dodge with each super attack performed within the same turn. Again, we thought that was separate, but now with his high chance to dodge start of turn, this could be 50% plus a 44% chance to dodge. That means that this is a 94% chance to dodge if you get all 4 super attacks. Now again, these 2 super attacks he has as a passive, that is both a great chance to super, but at the bare minimum, this guy has a 61% chance to dodge now, which is useful. You know, if you get at least 2 super attacks, that is a 72% chance to dodge too, right? I like this quite a bit. This makes Dyspo also better, which is good because I think, you know, we don't usually get Dyspo characters, right? And it'll be helpful for Topo. I think part 2 LR is probably going to be Jiren. We can get TEQ Jiren's easy as well. So I think, you know, kind of like a Universe 11, almost like baseline for a team will be a lot better now because this Dyspo is actually able to kind of cook now. Well, I think before he was already like a decent character, but you know, it was like that high chance and the separate, but now it's like, oh, well, he can get a 94% chance to dodge. It's insane. Gotenks is another character where he gets 10% dodge within the same turn after evading an attack. I think I saw people confused about this, where it's like, oh, you know, does this build up permanently now? No, because this is, again, 10% in the same turn after evading an attack. I believe with how it's worded, I think like, okay, let me see if I could bring up the difference, because when I translated it, I remember that like the wording was different than like, let's say TEQ UI Goku, right? Because if you take a look at TEQ UI Goku here, we can see again he gets each time you evade, 7% dodge chance increases during that turn. And then here with Gotenks, what happens is he gets, after you evade an enemy attack. So it's, again, once after you evade, you get the 10% chance to dodge. It's not every time you evade, like with UI Goku, right? And that's the difference. So that's why it's not additive, because it's not every time you evade with Gotenks. It's just you evade once and you get this once, right? That's how it works. But again, that means this guy has 60% chance to dodge now in his base form. When you Super Saiyan, that becomes 20% chance to dodge, and he still has a high chance. That becomes a 70% chance to dodge after you evade one attack with the 50% chance. Then when you Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, he can get to 90% because he had a great chance. Then again, he still had the plus 20%. So once you dodge once, this guy has a 90% chance to dodge, which again, could be very useful in a lot of circumstances, right? Once he gets that dodge off. And like very long content, I would say, because this Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is a little difficult to get out in certain stages of fights. But like if you're running in Blue Gogeta, this guy could, even be more useful, which is awesome. TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, him being at 12 key, I don't still like him being at 12 key. I would prefer still getting 11 key. So this might not affect this guy as much, but if you have to get the 12 key, again, now that's 83% chance dodge, like, I guess like it's intended, rather than a 50% chance plus a separate 33% chance. So that's awesome, right? Having an 83% chance dodge. If this guy's like floating around, that'd be good. That'd be useful. So there we go. Shen. Now we're getting to some characters I feel like at this point did get updated that aren't great, or some of them are bad at this point, but I still want to point them out. This Shen right here, he has a 90% chance to dodge now in slot 1 because he has a high chance to dodge. He gets 20% chance to dodge here as the first attacker in the turn. If you take a look here, then with each dodge he does, he gets up to another 20% chance to dodge, right? He just needs to dodge twice. So, and that's also within the same turn, keep that in mind. So it's like he doesn't dodge twice, and for the rest of the battle he has 90% chance to dodge. But in slot 1 he has a 70% chance, then he could dodge twice to build up to a 90% chance, which is I mean, for a free-to-play unit, we'll take those. In Yamcha, again, we talked about Yamcha before, but he had the 10% chance dodge within the same turn with each super he performs. Then he has the baseline high chance to dodge. So like on those turns with the active skill, if he gets a quad super, this guy would actually be able to get guaranteed dodge on that specific turn. And this would allow him to get 60% chance to dodge, just like starter turn, which is also just a nice little thing. Yamcha's not really like good like that anymore, but he's still a unit that I want to point out because a lot of us, this is like one of the first units that we thought, oh, it seems like this is going to be separate, like, because I think you guys get my point, because like this usually wasn't really a thing too often until probably like after Yamcha came out, and then like we started getting other units with similar kind of stuff, which is cool. I said Int, but STR Janemba, he had 30% chance to dodge, and then he had a separate 10%, but now it's additive. So I mean, I guess when this guy gets a super easy A, we'll know that this is actually additive. So I mean, imagine they change this to a high chance, then he only needs to dodge 5 times to get guaranteed dodge. That's definitely possible that could happen. Baby Janemba, another character, high chance to dodge, then 12% chance to dodge with each attack evaded. That is now additive. So he had to dodge, well, if he dodges 4 times, he would have a 98% chance to dodge. Is that how that would work? Apparently so. Cool. Physical Zamasu, a character that I believe, yeah, he had this 20% chance to dodge here. Then he had 30% chance to dodge on super, which is silly. But now it's just 50% chance to dodge, essentially, rather than them being separate. So that's cool too. Yippee! Then one last character I want to bring up is Goku and Bulma and Krillin, right? This LR that came out, LR One Piece, some people call them. They get, I think it's a medium chance to dodge somewhere in here. Yeah, medium chance of evading enemies' attack when there's another Earthbird fighters. They also get 30% chance to dodge an active skill. Now this, I just want to point out, I asked Proton about it. We don't know if this is also affected or if this potentially could still be separate. That's something that we are unsure of, because all of this is like in the passive that we're talking about. I'm gonna assume this also is additive, but this is not something we could test, because I think this is the only character that gets an extra chance to dodge on the like active skill. I think that there might be like a character too that gets guaranteed dodge, but I think, you know, getting a chance to dodge, that's something we can't really like test that, right? We can only test if a character eventually gets guaranteed dodge, then apply that to the other characters who work the same that would have chances. So I mean, if you eventually get a character that gets like, you know, guaranteed dodge by adding like 50% chance to dodge to the kit via the active skill, of course, we'll see. But that's basically it. So that's all the characters I think that were really majorly affected. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what characters you may think that maybe missed. I know some people were bringing up like S-Cherry Y, Tecalifla. Those characters were always all start of turn. It has to be specifically characters that gain the dodge, like when attacking, when evading, etc. Like those multiplicative kind of passives. That's it for me though. I'm done here. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.